These are called conditions. Okay. Conditions are ideal if you want to send tailored information or do tailored actions for certain groups of clients. In this example, if my client has a tag that is called new client, then send them this email. It's called Welcome to the Portal, New Clients. If they have a returning client tag, then I don't want them to get this new client email. Send them the returning client email. They might have similar things but verbalize slightly differently, right? The returning clients might say something like, hey, welcome back, we're starting on your tax return, right? While new clients email says, hey, thank you for choosing us and we're going to get started on your tax return. They're slightly different, and you don't have to do anything other than tag the account accurately, and the right email will get to the right group of clients. You don't have to use this or do this as this template says. It's just nice for you to understand the logic behind conditions. Not only can you tailor these conditions, you can tailor whole stages, and we'll talk about that shortly. For example, if this pipeline, I'm going to hit save because I made a small change there. If this pipeline is a general tax return, which means you can have corporate tax returns go through this pipeline or individual tax returns go through this pipeline, you can say something like this: add automation. I'm going to send an engagement letter, and I'm going to just move this up here because you can drag and drop, so I have better visibility. This is individual tax preparation. If my client has 1040, they'll get this engagement letter. And let's do, I believe I have, let's see, I'll do this. If I have a business, and I don't know, this is a 1065, I'll just do it as an example. If they have a 1065 tag, send them this specific engagement letter. But if they have the 1040, send them the individual version of the engagement letter. And if it's a new client, send them this, and then if it's not, send them this. And this is really ideal. If this is making sense to you, hopefully it gives you that aha moment that says, oh, I could do a lot of things with tags. Not only can I send tailored information, but I can do it to specific groups of clients, right? So the tags, they really don't matter. It's up to you how you want to tag your accounts. And we talked a lot about tagging when we set up our CSV file and we imported it. And even if you already imported it, you can apply tags in bulk to many, many clients, right? So my suggestion really is you don't necessarily have to do this maybe on year one of TaxDome, because everybody really is going to be a returning client. I would most likely maybe do something like a general email for everybody, and you can tailor this, rename this in the section where you can find all of the templates, and you can rename this and pretty much email your client and let them know, hey, we're starting your tax return. You should have the engagement letter ready to sign, and also you'll receive an organizer shortly. Please download the app if you haven't done so. So emails like that, kind of giving them instruction and making them be alert and aware of the portal, not only on a web version, but giving them the suggestion to download the app as well, so that they have that kind of flexibility, especially when uploading documents. Our scanning option for the organizer and uploading images is ideal. So I suggest something like this. And if you combine corporate tax returns with individuals, this is a nice first stage to have. In this case, I'm not going to have businesses, and this is for everybody that hits stage one. Everybody that hits stage one will get the same engagement letter, and everyone that hits stage one will get this kind of like, welcome email. So my stage one is done. The next stage is organizer. Again, we click on one of the actions, and in these automations, we need to critically think about, like, do I really want to send a message to my client? And if so, which template do I want to send? Or do I want to create one from scratch? Our chat, as we talked about in the previous sessions, is a nice way to communicate with your client. But sometimes you got to think about, do I really want to bombard my client with another notification? In this case, they're going to get two emails. One of them that says, hey, you have an organizer to fill out. And then another email that says, hey, you have a chat message inside of Taxstone Portal. So I'm not going to send the message for now. And I don't necessarily want to apply more folder templates, but you can choose this kind of action and automation if you need to add more folder templates in the future. I'm going to delete this. I just want to make sure they get their organizer, because I already announced to them in the first email that they'll soon get an organizer so they can upload their documents, right? Again, you can choose which template you want to send over. And really, to be honest with you, the longest it takes to set up Taxdome is setting up the CSV file, and number two, setting up all of these templates. It takes a little while and dedication for you to make sure you have the right words in the email template, make sure you have the right information that you want to convey to your client, make sure the right questions are in the organizers, and make sure that the engagement letter looks exactly how you want it to look like. If you need to know how to edit some of these templates, please use the Help Center. You can type in engagement letter, you can type in proposal, for example, and it'll give you all of the ways to manipulate those templates, whether it is adding your logo or manipulating the verbiage, because we do have a library of verbiage. But if you have an engagement letter that you've used for the last couple of years, you could just copy and paste that into the engagement letter templates, right? If you have questions that are missing from our organizer template, you can create additional questions or delete them. Those are the things that take a little bit of time for you to do. You only have to do it once as you tailor everything to Taxstone. So in this case, again, I copied a lot of things from the library. That's why you see a million copies. You might have it empty, or you might have one or two that you have tested. But for now, I'm just going to use, let's see, one of the best practice ones that has a best practice title. And I'm going to send reminders. I'm just going to send 2 reminders every 3 days, twice, right? Because I don't want to bug my client, but I actually do want to make sure that they fill this out. My stage 1 and 2 are absolutely done. When I add jobs to this pipeline, they are going to receive exactly what I want them to receive. They're going to sign exactly what I want them to sign. They'll go into the organizer. They'll fill that out. Once they hit submit, it'll go to the next stage. This is how you build out your pipeline. You're going to go along each stage and build out exactly what you want. Usually the first few stages for a 1040, and not only a 1040, by the way, because you can be in different countries. You can be in Canada. This can be a T1, T2. Usually the first steps is to have a client sign an agreement, get them to fill out a form that gives you all the information that you need. And then when you hit this third stage, usually it's more about internal processes. So notice that my action is here a task. So I talked about tasks earlier and how to, kind of fill it out generally. But in this case, you want to have predetermined tasks. Notice I have a big list here of predetermined tasks. And these are the ones that you're going to probably hyper focus on most of the time to be able to build out your pipeline. So for example, once I hit the stage, I don't want to really necessarily message my client just yet. So I'll delete that action, but I do want to send a task out to whoever's assigned to this job. So make sure that this toggle is on if this task should belong to your job assignee, right? If it doesn't, turn it off and we'll make this task specifically for a permanent person in the team. If it's not a permanent person that takes care of that, then again, toggle it on. This is for whoever I choose as a job assignee, okay? I'm going to take a look at this particular template. I can actually click on new template and it'll take me to the template section really. So it's kind of works as a shortcut. And I'm going to click on this back button. And what you want to do is look for that specific template. And I think it was called Prepare Tax Return 1040. Let's see if I can find that here. I have a lot of task templates because I've copied many templates and they just create copies for me, right? So you can always delete some of these if you don't need them. If you see a check mark next to it, it means they are actually being used in a pipeline, okay? So make sure that you maybe delete the ones that don't have this check mark so that you don't really lose anything in here. All right, so I'll choose this one and I'll modify it shortly. So in this case, this is prepare tax returns. And you can rename this to whatever you'd like. So I'll do 1040 prepare. And in this section, you can have a status here that you can have no status or any status. The only thing you don't want is to have a starting status of complete. The goal is for your team member to hit complete on here. I'm going to do low priority here, and then I don't want to add a description on here because I'm actually going to add subtasks. Tags can be added to tasks because if you can imagine having, I don't know, about 100 tasks assigned to you, you probably want to know what they're about. And I'm going to tag this as a 1040. I want the job assignee to be whatever team member that I choose. So I'll leave this blank. And I want this to be due within 2 days. Usually when the client submits the organizer, I need to review that stuff within 2 days, right? And what are the actions that I need to take? Then whatever is on here, you can delete, okay? And then you can add whatever you'd like. In this case, I did have some items on here that I had written prior. So delete whatever is on here and add the instructions that you need, right? So one of the tasks that I have on here is input data to tax software. That's the first thing, right? Once they fill out the organizer, I'm going to have them input the data into the tax software. The next step, if they're missing anything, let's tag the account missing documents, or if they need an extension, let's tag them extension needed. I'll talk about what that means in a little bit. And if the client has everything complete, just complete the task, right? Otherwise, tag and complete. So these instructions need to make sense to you and your team. They don't need to make sense to me or anybody else. As long as your team knows what to do, that's what matters, right? So it could be a whole bunch of gibberish on here that nobody understands, but as long as your team knows what they need to do, these serve as reminders. Subtasks help you and your team just know what they need to do, right? These check marks are internal to you only. So if you check mark all of these, that doesn't mean that the status is automatically going to be completed. You can check mark them or not. You're going to have your team member hit complete on this task whenever it's assigned to them. I'm going to hit save and exit. Okay. And I call this 1040 prepare, right? So I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to look for that 1040 prepare. And I want this to be assigned to whoever the job assignee is. I'm going to hit save, and that's it. I have my first 3 stages done, right? So when these stages are done, if I'm on this stage, when my team member hits complete on this particular stage, it's going to do one of 2 things. It's either going to go into the missing info stage, or it's going to jump all the way to manager review. Why is it going to do that? Well, something called conditional stages. Conditional stages are conditions that, similar to the emails or the engagement letters that you can send to businesses only or to individuals only, it's the same concept, but here you're putting a condition on the whole stage. I'm saying nobody goes through this stage unless they have missing docs tag on their account. If they don't have that, then you're going to skip this. And then the next one says, if the account has extension needed as a tag, they're the only ones to go through this stage. Otherwise, skip it. So the next 4 stages are kind of conditioned for special cases. Um, this is why the instruction that I have and the in prep says, if everything's good with the client, just hit complete. And then we'll go into the manager review. If they're missing something, tag them missing docs and then hit complete. That way they will actually sit in the right stage and will go into the next actions, right? So